Why does the United States need 15 warships, 3 nuclear submarines, and over 5,000 Marines? To chase a
Why does
single
the
drug
United States
submarine,
need 15
could an
warships, 3
anti-narcotics
submarines,
operation
and over
really
5,000
justify one of
Marines
the
to chase
largest
a
naval
single
movements
drug
in the
submarine?
Caribbean in decades? Or is something else something far larger taking shape beneath the surface? The official press releases call it a humanitarian mission, but when destroyers, cruisers, and amphibious assault ships appear off Venezuela's northern coast, even the calmest waters begin to whisper of power, deterrence, and strategy. The Caribbean, once a symbol of tropical stillness, suddenly feels like a chessboard. And in this game, every ship tells a story. Welcome to ArmaForge, where we decode the logic behind military movements without taking sides, without glorifying war. Here, every simulation, every question is about understanding the structure of power in a changing world. Because sometimes, understanding why something happens is the first step toward preventing it from happening at all. Let's start with what we know. The U.S. Navy's Caribbean Task Force consists of 15 vessels, an entire formation rarely assembled outside of wartime. Leading the force are Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers, equipped with Aegis radar, guided missiles, and anti-submarine capabilities. Alongside them,
This is the USS
Ticonderoga-class cruisers.
DDG-52,
Their
a
massive
vessel of
radar
strength and
domes
resilience.
scanning every
The Barry
movement
is a
within
shining
hundreds of
example
miles.
of the United States'
3
Pacific Fleet's
submarines,
mission
stealthy
to provide
and
stability
unannounced,
and security
patrol
wherever
silently
the nation
beneath the
demands.
waves. Above, C-17 and C-130
Barry has proven its might
transports
in
ferry
real-world
supplies to
operations.
Puerto Rico,
In
while
2011, during
5,200
Operation Odyssey
Marines
Dawn,
from the
it
26th
launched 55
Marine
Tomahawk
Expeditionary
missiles to
Unit
suppress Libyan air
stand ready
defenses,
on
playing a
nearby
critical role in
amphibious ships.
enforcing United Nations
Officially,
resolutions.
this is all part of a mission
In
to
2020,
interdict drug
the USS
trafficking
Barry
routes.
added the prestigious
But Mini Hook,
Anti-Submarine Warfare
since when
Bloodhound
does a
Award
drug smuggler's
and the
submarine
Spokane
require
Trophy
a
for
full
exceptional
strike
performance to their
and 3
illustrious
nuclear
accolades.
reactors to contain it?
The
Washington
USS Barry
describes
embodies
this as
its
a
motto,
humanitarian
strength
effort,
and diversity.
ensuring
A
regional
vessel of
stability,
history, heroism,
assisting
and hope.
partners against
Barry
illegal
continues
trade.
to defend freedom
Yet
and uphold the
military
highest
analysts
traditions of the
point to
United States
patterns
Navy.
that tell another story. In the weeks leading up to the deployment, Venezuela conducted a joint air defense exercise with Russia and signed a new technology sharing agreement with China. Could this operation be less about cocaine and more about signaling deterrence to Caracas and its allies? After all, naval deployments have long been about messages as much as missions. When 15 ships appear near a rival's doorstep, the ocean becomes a medium of communication. But what exactly is being said and to whom? From Venezuela's perspective, the picture looks very different. To Caracas, the U.S. fleet is not a protective armada. It's an encroachment. The government responds by activating coastal radar, mobilizing the Guayqueri class, Avante 2,200 frigates, and deploying super-class FS-30 ships to the northern approach. These vessels, though older, carry the atomic Mk2 anti-ship missile, a weapon that can still threaten if used wisely in shallow waters. The Venezuelan Navy knows the Caribbean's narrow corridors intimately. Every reef, every current, every inlet offers potential cover. In their view, this is home territory worth defending. Mini Hook. But in an age of precision satellites and hypersonic detection, can home advantage still mean anything? Tensions deepen as foreign assistance emerges in subtle ways. Russian technicians have reportedly helped upgrade Venezuela's S-300 air defense systems, and Chinese-made surveillance drones have appeared along coastal bases. Beijing state-run media speaks cautiously, calling for respect for sovereignty, while Moscow warns that foreign interference in Latin America could trigger instability. These statements might sound diplomatic, but to military strategists, they are signals. The Caribbean, once America's uncontested backyard, now reflects the multipolar world that defines the 21st century. Mini Hook? Could this be the quiet revival of a global pattern once called the Cold War? Now, let's look at the composition of power itself. Each U.S. Arleigh-Burke destroyer carries nearly 100 missiles, Tomahawks, Harpoons, and SM-series interceptors. They can detect and engage over 100 targets simultaneously, even while coordinating air cover from F-35BS operating off nearby amphibious carriers. In contrast, Venezuela's entire surface fleet numbers fewer than 10 active ships, many decades old, with limited radar range roughly 150 kilometers compared to Aegis 400 plus. But warfare isn't always a contest of numbers. Sometimes it's about environment, timing, and perception. A small force in familiar waters can delay a much stronger fleet. Yet if those waters become a stage for international signaling, even hesitation carries risk. Mini hook, when both sides see deterrence as defense, how close is deterrence to provocation? Then comes the unspoken third player. Intelligence leaks suggest that China has quietly discussed supplying Venezuela with Type 054A frigates, the same class used in the People's Liberation Army Navy. Each carries HQ-16 surface-to-air missiles, advanced AESA radar, and digital warfare suites capable of jamming enemy systems. Even if no ships have been delivered, the message is unmistakable. You are not alone. For China, supporting Venezuela even symbolically offers a subtle counterbalance to U.S. alliances in Asia. For the U.S., seeing Chinese hulls appear in Caribbean waters would be a psychological earthquake. Mini-hook, what happens when America's rivals begin to mirror its own strategy right on its doorstep? Imagine then a hypothetical scenario. Night falls across the Caribbean. A Venezuelan patrol frigate moves within 50 nautical miles of a U.S. destroyer. Radar locks, but no weapons are armed. Suddenly, the American radar detects interference flickering, irregular, like ghost signals. For 5-10 seconds, communication links degrade. Engineers trace the source to an unknown satellite network, possibly linked to a Chinese data relay. Nothing explodes. No ship fires. But in that moment, every commander aboard realizes a truth. Modern confrontation doesn't need bullets to feel like war. The invisible front line is digital. The first shots are pulses of energy. Morning arrives. News headlines describe it as an unidentified electronic anomaly. Diplomatic channels hum quietly behind the scenes. Something has changed. The line between exercise and escalation has blurred. The Caribbean is no longer simply water, it's information, deterrence, and theater. Each vessel is both an actor and a message. Each maneuver, a paragraph in a global conversation. And yet, no one knows who is truly listening. The real battle, perhaps, isn't for territory but for narrative. The United States projects control through speed and scale 15 ships, rapid deployment, overwhelming presence. Venezuela counters with resilience and alliances, saying, "We will not be intimidated." China and Russia contribute subtle shadows intelligence, technology, diplomacy, all reinforcing the illusion that every move has a hidden counter. Mini-hook. When power becomes language, who controls the meaning? And as the fleets drift within sight of each other, an eerie balance emerges. The Americans show they can reach anywhere. Venezuela proves it won't retreat quietly. China reminds the world that even distant waters can reflect its influence. The waves carry no cannon fire, yet the air hums with anticipation. This is not war, it's the choreography of deterrence. In the end, no missiles are fired. The U.S. fleet maintains its patrol. Venezuela declares victory for having stood firm. China says nothing but watches everything. And across the globe, observers wonder, is this how modern conflict begins? Not with invasion, but with demonstration. Not with chaos, but with coordination. The Caribbean, once the world's warmest sea, now mirrors the cold logic of global rivalry. A tranquil surface concealing deep undercurrents. Every radar ping, every movement, a silent negotiation of intent. It's not about who fires first, it's about who blinks first. So as the sun sets over the Caribbean horizon, the final question lingers. Was this truly an anti-drug mission, or the quiet rehearsal of something far greater? If you've made it this far, tell us what you think. Is this operation a simple display of maritime policing or a message disguised as a mission? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to ArmaForge, where we explore global strategy through logic, not ideology through understanding, not fear. Because the more we know about how power moves, the less likely we are to be surprised when it does.